Okay, in this next step, what we're going to do is actually demonstrate how to override a CSS file, a JavaScript file, and then override the screenshot that's used for our subtheme. To begin, make sure that you have the batsub.info file open. So if you go to your base sites directory, you should be able to find this in the sites, all, themes, batsub directory, and then batsub.info. And then jump over to your resource pack folder and open up the 14th step, which is called batsub.info override CSS and JS files. Go ahead and copy the entire code that's in this and paste it into your batsub.info file, overriding everything that's there, and save it. Now this file is nearly identical to our previous file that we used to create a subtheme, except we've added 2 lines to it. One, we've added a style sheets all and then empty brackets, css/style.css, and then scripts with empty brackets and script.js. Now, this is simply a demonstration of how we would override the CSS file and the JavaScript file of a base theme. In Bartik, all of the CSS files are in the CSS directory, and so if we wanted to override this particular file and we wanted to add our own styles instead of leveraging the style.css file that's in Bartik, then we would need to actually create it with the same file structure as the base theme. So it needs to go into the CSS folder and then the style.css file inside of that folder. Now this particular file could be blank, and the docs for learning how to use this info file state that you need to actually create this file, but in practice you don't. That file can be non-existent, and if you want to override it with nothing, simply not include this file, you can just point to where this file would normally be, but not necessarily create the file. Now, most of the time, we're not going to want to completely override a style sheet. So if we want to simply add to existing style sheets, we can create a style that's outside of the range of what's defined inside of the base theme. It would have an undesirable effect if we wanted to use the styles in this style.css file in the base theme, but extend them if we named it css/style.css. So it's important to recognize that if you're using the subtheme, that you don't accidentally override the base theme style sheets by using the same name as the previous one. Simply create a new style sheet with a different name and you'll be good to go. Let's go ahead and look at how this would work. In my editor, I'm going to go ahead and open up the sites directory, and here we have all themes batsub, and inside of this directory we're going to create a new directory called CSS to match up with the Bartik structure, and then inside of this directory we're going to create a new file called style.css, which will override the style.css inside of Bartik. Make sure that everything is saved, your info file is saved, and let's go ahead and jump back to the browser. And here we have our subtheme enabled, and if we refresh the page, we're not going to see any change because we need to clear our theme registry first. So I'm going to go ahead and hover over the home button in the admin menu bar here and click flush all caches. It'll take just a moment, and when it's done, we'll see that there's some style differences here. We see some additional padding over on the left and the right. We see that our heading is underlined and that it's not in line with the logo. So it's clear that there are some styles that have been removed here. Okay, go ahead and jump back to the info file in your editor. Now when we override JavaScript files, we're going to use a similar structure to that of style sheets. But with style sheets, there are subarrays, so you see there's style sheets all and then empty brackets. With JavaScript, it's simply scripts and then empty brackets, and then the name of the JavaScript file. Now, Bartik doesn't have any JavaScript files, but if it did, we would need to match up the file structure just like we did with the CSS in order to override it. So if there was a script.js file inside of the Bartik theme, but it was in the base directory of the theme, then this would be the right structure. If it was in a JavaScript folder, like a JS slash, we would want to include that with the structure here. Let's go ahead and take a look at how to override the screenshot for our theme next. I'm going to go ahead and jump to the directory for our theme. And inside of our subtheme folder, we need to have a new screenshot file. And so what I'm going to do is copy it from our previous example where we created a screenshot from a theme we built from scratch. So this is in the bat folder right here. You can grab any image that you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and copy it and paste it into the bat subfolder. Now, if you remember from our previous examples in working with the theme, that screenshot.png is the file that's looked for by default. We don't necessarily have to add that to our info file if we want to have a screenshot. Now, let's go ahead and jump back to our browser and refresh our appearance page and see if our screenshot gets pulled in. I'm going to go ahead and click up here in appearance. Okay, so you see we now have our build a subtheme right here. And we have our screenshot that we've added as well. So this is something that doesn't necessarily need to be refreshed in the theme registry. However, if we're using a different file name than screenshot.png, we'll need to add that to our info file just like we would if we were building a theme from scratch.